Ladies and gents, today I have a banger going for you guys. We're going to be doing a tier list for marketing ads, but I can't take this seriously. No, but seriously, I've been wanting to do this for a really long time because I thought it would just be a really fun video to just get some opinions out. There's going to be facts, there's going to be opinions. So obviously this tier list, it's according to me, it's my opinion. So I mean, you know, some people could say that, oh, Instagram is much higher than I think, or someone could say that Facebook is much lower than I think. So, you know, it really depends on what you think. This is my opinions. Alrighty, ladies and gents, here we are. This is the tier maker we're going to be using today. So I've got the, you know, classic ones like Facebook, Google, Pinterest, Instagram, all those. Also a couple that you guys might not recognize. So we do have Adroll, we do have Taboola here, and even Quora. Yeah, they have an ads platform, and I'm going to go into each one and we're going to just talk about and see my opinions, and you know what, hopefully we'll even roast a couple of these. Okay, so this is the way I've arranged it. I've arranged it from elite, good, decent, meh, and garbage. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Elite's obviously the best. Garbage is something you don't even want to think about. And we're going to get right into it. So first of all, obviously, I'm going to have to talk about it eventually, so I'd rather just get it out of the way. Facebook ads. So in the last couple of years, they have been slacking, but however, it's still the biggest ads platform there is. I think Google is actually technically the biggest, but when it comes to social media, Facebook obviously is the biggest because it's the biggest social media site. With the information that it provides advertisers with how targeted your ads can be, I'm going to have to say that it's definitely going to be one of the better ones. So I am going to put it in good. Hopefully this isn't really that surprising. I'm never going to say it's elite because I personally Facebook's platform, but as an advertising standpoint, it's very good. If your business hasn't used it, you should have been using it. There is a competitor which I think is much better than Facebook, so I'll dive into that later. But honestly, if you've watched my channel before, then it's pretty obvious which one I'm going to have. So when it comes to Twitter, I've used the Twitter ads platform multiple times, and every single time that I've tested the platform, spent a decent amount of money on it, the results were always depressing. They were terrible. They were disgusting. I don't know what else to tell you, but it is the worst platform that from a large social media company that I've ever used. And because of that reason, I'm going to say it's complete garbage. You shouldn't even think about using it. If you're advertising a product, I don't really know how it's possible to even make money on there. Then again, I did use it like last time was like last year. I did go through the certification, so I am certified like flight school from Twitter and everything, but I don't like the platform whatsoever, and it's a pain to figure out. And honestly, if you're not promoting some type of left-wing rhetoric, because that's like the only thing that people care about on Twitter nowadays, you're not really going to find any success on it. So for most businesses, it's a total waste of time, and honestly, I'd suggest Facebook if you're a more average business. Next thing I'm going to be talking about is Instagram. So Instagram itself, the platform is good. It was, you know, revolutionary idea is sharing photos, and it's still a good platform, but it's saturated. Just like Facebook, there's so many users on it that it's just saturated. It's starting to get old. And Facebook and Instagram, they both simply copy their competitors at this point. They started to add in, you know, stories from Snapchat. They started to basically mimic what TikTok has created. So Facebook had Lasso, which failed miserably, and Instagram has Reels. So all they do is really copy, and you know, I think Instagram itself used to be very strong. I don't think it's as strong as it used to be anymore. Just like Facebook, the cost per click has skyrocketed, the CPMs. In general, you have to spend much more money to get the same results as you used to, and because of that, I'm not really a fan of it. But if I have to choose between Facebook or Instagram, I'm always going to say Facebook is much better because you can honestly still use it for business purposes, such as advertising your services. I don't really think it's the best for products. Personally, I think you can find different ones for products, but Instagram ads, I'm honestly in between good and decent. I'm going to say decent. This is just how I feel about it. This is from my experience. I personally don't recommend Instagram ads. It's a very gray area, and that's why decent is gray. Okay, next thing we're going to be talking about is Bing, otherwise known as Microsoft ads. So this might come as a surprise, but Bing Microsoft ads is actually a very, very good place to advertise on. It's been growing recently, and obviously it's not as big as Google, and it probably never will be as big as Google. However, people still use Bing. So for my websites where I was advertising my services, I actually ran a bunch of Bing ads, and turned out they were very successful. So Bing is basically just Google, but much cheaper, and I personally really liked it. I think it's definitely one of the things that are under leveraged, so I'm actually going to say it's pretty elite. So since I just talked about Microsoft Bing ads, I'm also going to be talking about Google ads because I'm going to have to defend myself here. Right before I even start, I'm going to say it's up here. Personally, I believe that Microsoft is obviously the platform isn't as good as Google. However, there's more potential than Google especially for newer businesses. There's less competition on Bing. It's much cheaper. So because of that, that's why I like Bing so much. Well, Microsoft ads so much. Google ads are also very good. Obviously, they're just more expensive. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone, put them up here and call it a day. Yahoo Gemini, I'm not even going to waste my time. This one's going right into the bin. So I wouldn't even think about it. Next ads platform we're going to be talking about is Snapchat. So Snapchat also has its ads platform, and yeah, it's not really that good. However, there's a lot of potential. The traffic you can get through it is dirt cheap. It might not be the highest quality traffic, but it definitely could be a really good place to run reach campaigns, brand awareness, and even some conversion campaigns that could even get you some sales. I know there's a couple of drop shippers, and obviously there are larger businesses that run ads on Snapchat. You will eventually, see a couple every once in a while, but after the couple of times I've run it, I've noticed that it's very difficult. It's definitely not one of those platforms where you can study for a couple of days and get into it and find success. It's definitely one of the platforms where I think you either have to be really lucky, you either have to have a large amount of money to invest. It's for the average person, I don't really think it's that good. If you want very cheap traffic, then sure, but honestly I'd put it right in between decent and meh, but because nothing's in meh, it's going into the meh bin for now. Next thing we're going to be talking about is going to be Quora. So Quora, as you know, it is the type of platform where you go on and you ask questions and you get answers, and it's very targeted. Believe it or not, it's very effective. I've used it a couple of times before, and it's surprisingly decent. I wouldn't say anything more or less about it, but it definitely surprised me when I used it, and it definitely does generate results. So if you haven't yet, thought about it or even heard of it, go try it out, see how it is. It's basically a good place to provide solutions to problems. So someone is asking a question, you can basically refer your product or say that your product will solve that pain point or that problem that that person has. So in that way, it's very good. It's very direct, quick, and engagement I think is actually pretty high. So because of that, it's gonna be surprising, but I think it's decent platform. Okay, so my next opinion is gonna be a little bit more aggressive. I'm sick of their company and I hate everything about it. So I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, and it's Taboola. So Taboola has this logo right here, and they're the company that recommends you once you finish reading a blog or an article. It's the other content you may like. So basically it just says you may also like under a blog, and that's not a problem. It's pretty cool to get things that you may like. However, a lot of their stuff is just so low quality. It's just lazy. It's just pretty lame content, and it feels really spammy. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, every single time I look at it, I'm like, wow, like it feels like very spammy. It feels like I'm gonna get scammed clicking on one of these, and because of that, if I ever click on it, it's literally always on accident. And I promise you, as quick as I click on it, I immediately get out. I don't want to be looking on their pages for too long. It's just sketchy. So I haven't used Taboola myself. I never will. I personally think it's just a very scammy platform. I'm not a fan of it. I'm sure there are businesses that get a really good return on investment on it, but definitely not for me. Never gonna try it out, and I really don't care about learning about it. So honestly, I wish I could put it even lower than Twitter and Yahoo Gemini, but I can't, so I'm gonna have to put it here for now. All right, so now that we got those out of the way, the next one we're gonna be referring to is going to be Adroll. It's also gonna be in the group of advertising platforms that you may not have heard of. You most likely have heard of, but you never were interested enough to actually look into it. So Adroll is a platform where it basically just does display ads. It's Google ads, but just display ads just on through their own platform. And because of that, I don't know much about it. To be honest with you, this is probably the platform I know least about. Feel pretty comfortable around it though, because their ads feel more higher quality, usually maybe something interesting. I don't click on them because I'm just the type of person to never click on ads no matter what. So for me, it doesn't work. But it's a decent platform. So because of the lack of information I have about it, I'm going to say it's decent. You should definitely check it out. Form your own opinion. We're just going to put it in map because I don't have enough information about it to really form my own opinion. However, I will say it's better than these three. Okay, so the next ones, these are our last three: LinkedIn, TikTok, and Pinterest. This is the one that I love the most. This is the platform that I have spent a while learning, studying, and it's just, for me, this is the bread and butter of my business. Now, I'm going to give you some reasons as to why it's really good and some reasons why it might not be that good. TikTok is very good simply because of the fact that you can advertise your services or your business or your products for very cheap. It's just a newer social media. It's trendy. So obviously all these costs are going to be lower. Hopefully they're going to be low for a very long time. If you know how to create a very strong ad, your video is very good, if it's engaging, then you're going to have an engaged audience there. It's going to click onto your website. You're going to get really high quality traffic. So it's really good. However, it is still volatile. I do work with people. I do some consulting for free while I also manage my own business. And from when I consult people, a lot of the questions I get is basically just the same things over and over. Sometimes they have spending problems, which there's an easy fix, but sometimes you just have to do a little bit of digging into it. There's also problems that price can fluctuate. So a couple of days their CPCs could be 0.15, so 15 cents, and some days it could be 40 cents. So yeah, there is a very sharp increase. However, you just want to look at it from an average standpoint. If it's, you know, a weekly or monthly average and it's decent, then you have nothing to worry about. But those are the biggest problems that I've had seen from people. Their targeting has actually expanded massively over the last couple of months. When I started out advertising, you weren't able to advertise anything other than certain products. Now you can advertise almost everything. Obviously, TikTok is still a newer platform, so it's not going to have as much information about users that Facebook does. But if your business will allow it, TikTok is going to be one of the best social media pay-per-click ad platforms you could possibly use. All right, here are our last two. So now we have LinkedIn and Pinterest, and we're going to talk about LinkedIn first. So LinkedIn is a more corporate version of basically Instagram or Facebook. It's kind of like a mix of both. Its UI is definitely feels more like Facebook, but the platform itself kind of flows like Instagram. It's a weird mix, but it's still a strong platform. So since I'm going to be referring to LinkedIn right now, LinkedIn, you're wasting your time if you're selling most products. Usually LinkedIn, it's good to sell, you know, maybe courses, services, or maybe some like corporate products, but that's really it. I can't think of anything else. There's also like informational stuff you could sell, educational type of content, but that's really all you can sell. However, that does not mean it's a bad thing. That means it's very good because it's very targeted. It's going to be more for professionals. Think about LinkedIn like Facebook, it's just a corporate version. And I'm not saying corporate in a bad way, it's in a very good way. There's a lot of people that use LinkedIn for either to learn, to connect with other professionals. So people are ready to be sold to. People want to see different products, to get different ideas. It's very effective, especially for collecting leads. I've used it to collect leads before. It's going to be slightly more on the expensive side. However, it is still a worthwhile investment. So if you haven't yet looked into it, if you have a agency or a type of business that uses services, then LinkedIn is a good idea to look into. And now we're finally left with Pinterest. Pinterest is one of those platforms where I think it's very under leveraged. Not enough businesses use it, just like TikTok, Instagram, and obviously Snapchat. It really relies on showing your product off. Like I said, Pinterest is just underused, and I genuinely really recommend it. So if you have an e-commerce business, then use Pinterest. So I'm kind of in the same boat on LinkedIn and Pinterest because LinkedIn is kind of more for services. Meanwhile, Pinterest is more for products, but they're very equal. And yeah, this is the list. At the top, we have these. At the bottom, I'm not even going to mention their names. These are going to be the ads platforms I'm going to recommend you check out if you have services, if you sell services, or if you sell products. And then over here, you could look into these. These aren't my favorite. However, I'm not going to say they're garbage. They're very specific, and there's a learning curve to them, I would say. So Snapchat, very cheap, but low quality traffic, and Adroll, just display, and I don't know much about it, so you should go check it out. These down here, don't even think about it. Complete waste. It's just not a good investment to waste your time or your money into them.